Welcome to Evan Reviews Anything. In this episode, I'll be reviewing the 2016 US presidential election. Now, before I start, I just want to come clean and say I'm a very progressive, egalitarian, pro-science, secular humanist person, so that's the lens through which I'm viewing things. Also, as an outsider, for those of you who don't know, I am Canadian. So, to start with, I just want to mention that I've looked at a few different progressive commentators' reviews of the election. I guess most notably Malcolm Gladwell, Anita Sarkeesian, Patton Oswalt, who all have attributed the results to sexism. In fact, Malcolm Gladwell said, these election results show that the US population just doesn't want a female president. Well, that's flawed in two major ways. The first way is Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, okay, by about 2 million votes at this point in the count. So that indicates that the US population really is ready to elect a female president, and they did vote for her by a significant margin, but their will was thwarted by the Electoral College. This happened again for the second time in the past 5 elections. So that means 40% now of US elections in the 21st century have been decided by the Electoral College against the will of the majority of the voters and of the popular vote winner. So, the second major problem with the assertion that this just shows that Americans are too sexist to elect a female president is that it assumes that that's the only reason anyone could possibly not like Hillary Clinton, and that it ignores a whole bunch of other really important information. And in fact, it's very frustrating for me as a progressive person to see other progressives so simplistically just to chalk the whole thing up to sexism, because by doing so, you are indulging your anger and indignation at the expense of factual accuracy, intelligent analysis, and strategic usefulness. Because just sitting there and mumbling the word patriarchy angrily to yourself for the next 4 years, and then crossing your fingers in the desperate hope that maybe America will be less bigoted next time, is going to accomplish absolutely nothing. Now, there's no doubt that sexism played a significant role in this election. Probably more so in the actual campaign and the media coverage leading up to the actual election than in the vote itself, in which Hillary Clinton was scrutinized and vilified in a way that male candidates of similar backgrounds never have been before. However, if you look at exit poll data and the demographics of the actual vote, what you'll see is a very different story. Although male support for the Democratic presidential candidate dropped only 2 or 3% more than female support did between 2012 and 2016, support among people earning less than $50,000 a year dropped by 8%. Support among people who live in small cities and rural areas dropped by 16%. So what that shows you is that the real strongest reason why Donald Trump won this election, well, other than the Electoral College, of course, is the fact that the Democratic Party had alienated working-class middle America. By nominating Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Party completely ignored the rising tide of populism in US politics that stretched from the left wing all the way to the right. Donald Trump and his campaign managed to capitalize on this by using lowbrow rhetoric to appeal to voters who were poorly educated and angry. The Democrats, on the other hand, at a time when 75% of voters were saying they wanted a strong leader to stand up to the establishment and take America back for the people, nominated someone who has been deeply entrenched in the political establishment for 30 years, who is a multi-millionaire, who has extremely strong ties to all of the interests that people are worried have taken America away from them. Just as importantly, right from day one, the Democratic Party establishment and the Hillary Clinton campaign gave people the impression that they felt like Hillary was entitled to be president. Like it's her turn, like it's about time we have a woman president, it's about time Hillary gets in the Oval Office, etc. And in a system that's supposed to be a democracy, people really don't like the feeling that they don't have a choice. And so being told that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president, and if you don't vote for her, you're an idiot, is a huge turnoff, even to people who might have voted for her otherwise. So, if that's why Donald Trump won, and why people voted for him, the second part of that question is, does that reasoning make sense? And the answer is definitely no. Donald Trump, their so-called populist candidate, man of the people, is a 70-year-old white billionaire who was born into money and who has a decades-long track record of screwing over workers and small businesses with whom he's broken contracts. Now, people who are sick of having their working class needs ignored by the Washington elite, consisting of candidates who are in the pockets of corrupt billionaires, protesting that by voting in somebody who is a corrupt billionaire and just eliminating the middleman is really, really stupid, okay? That's equivalent to getting so fed up with your girlfriend yelling at you all the time that you finally leave her for Ike Turner. So how did Donald Trump manage to portray himself as such a candidate? Well, if you were to write an instruction book on how to make a 70-year-old white billionaire seem like an anti-establishment people's underdog, it would probably have a chapter in it about getting the Democratic Party elite, the Republican Party elite, the financial elite of Wall Street, the mainstream media, including every major newspaper in the country, who for the first time 0 of them endorsed a major party candidate, that is Donald Trump, as well as Hollywood pop culture, to all gang up and condemn him and be against him. That, ironically, probably helped his election chances by making people feel like the whole establishment was against them and Donald Trump, as opposed to Donald Trump being part of the establishment that has been screwing them over since the early 1980s. Now, I have to confess to having made a big mistake throughout the election campaign. Repeatedly, I told people in conversation that I was less worried about a potential Donald Trump presidency than a lot of other people were, because I didn't really think that he believed most of the most horrible things that he said, and that those weren't accurate reflections of his own views or values or of any planned policies, but rather publicity stunts to get attention and to rile up his base and to appeal to the lowest common denominator. But what I've realized since he won is that even if he wound up being a great president, a lot of damage has already been done. Because by showing that somebody can speak in such a racist, sexist, bigoted, misogynistic, crass, hateful way and still win a presidential election has emboldened all of those terrible elements of US society. Donald Trump spoke in a way that no politician in a major national public forum would have in the past half century, and it worked. And that's really scary. The other thing I'm worried about is that with Donald Trump as president, and with Republicans controlling both houses, that means that the United States is essentially a write-off for at least 2 years, maybe 4, hopefully not 8, in terms of supporting progressive values at home and around the world. And especially within a global context where the other major political powers are Russia, China, the European Union, and the Islamic world. That means that it's basically just down to Europe, Canada, and a handful of other countries like Australia and New Zealand, who collectively we represent less than 5% of the world's population. And we are the only ones who are going to stand up for gay rights, for gender equality, and for environmental science, and for other progressive values and virtues. I'm going to conclude with a message directed at my fellow Canadians. The rise to power of Donald Trump and his supporters in the United States has highlighted the importance of a big issue for us at home, and that is electoral reform. The reason I say that is that under our current first-past-the-post system, the party could get as little as about maybe 33 to 35% of the vote and still win a majority government. Both our current government and our previous government had under 40% of the vote, and, against the wishes of more than 60% of the vote, have virtually unchecked power, where the opposition parties, either individually or altogether, can't really do anything other than complain and delay. So please keep in mind that under our current system, an extremist movement like Donald Trump and his supporters could get as little as just over a third of the popular vote and win majority power and be able to do basically anything they want. However, if we adopt a proportional representation system, then such a movement would only be able to get majority power with 51% of the vote, which is a much, much more difficult margin to attain. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time to watch me absolutely destroy Fruit on the Bottom yogurt.